Welcome to That Seasonaire podcast. I'm your host Gina. Stick with me as I chat to seasonaires, expats and adventurers across the world sharing their inspiring stories and interesting insights into living and working abroad. On today's show, I catch up with Spanish seasonaire and action sports journalist Alba Pardo. As a young girl growing up in Spain, Alba knew she was destined to follow the snow, leaving for her first season aged only 16. From then on, it was all about finding the means to make a life chasing winters.
Something sparked at me, like, right, so I'm going to continue doing this journalism thing, and I'm going to open a bar, and I'm going to make money in summer, and then I'm going to go to the places I've always wanted to go snowboarding that I've seen in movies and that I see in magazines. So I did.
This story has it all, from cocktail bars to van life to freelance journalism. Stick with us right to the end of the show to find out how Alba handles motherhood with a travel lifestyle, how she founded Spanish snowboard magazine SBES Mag, and how she's recently found a true passion in creating the Women in Action Sports Network. If you enjoy the podcast and want to show your support for the show, you are now able to buy me a coffee via the link in the show notes. And without further ado, here's the show. Welcome to the show, Alba Pardo.
Thank you for having me here. Very honoured and very pleased.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being a part of it. We've spoken a few times. I did an interview with you for the Women in Action Sports Network. So how have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been good. I've been getting a lot of snow, actually. In the northern... it's actually the middle of Sweden, but it's kind of quite up north. It's like 4 hours north of Stockholm, and I've been spending a lot of time in Åre, which is like one of the biggest resorts out here. And yeah, I've been busy with work, so lots of exciting things going on.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you originally from? And obviously you've just told us your current situation, but I'm guessing you're no longer classed as a seasonaire as such. So what are you up to at the minute?
I don't know though, because I do live my life by season very much so.
Oh, cool.
So I'm originally from Spain, from a small village close to Barcelona, about like 35 kilometers from the city, in a beautiful kind of natural park. Just hills, no big mountains, no sea, but it's not far from either. I still have my house there. So I just recently moved to Sweden with my daughter, Pia. She's 4. Yeah, I mean, I still go back and forward a lot. So no, perhaps it's not like a season year per se, but I still chase the snow as much as I can. Yeah.
As you said there, you're originally from Spain. You're now living in Sweden. You've been and done a lot of seasons. Tell us, what kind of sparked the idea to first go and live and work abroad?
I guess it started when I was quite young. I mean, I started snowboarding when I was 12. And as soon as I tried that, I was like, right, this is it. Now I look back and I realize I live and I grew up in a nice environment, cool little village that has a lot to offer and is a great place to grow up. Back then, it was, I couldn't wait to run out from it. Yeah. I was like, because to get to the city, it's like there's 2 buses a day and it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's like a pain in the ass. So I just couldn't wait to get out of there and see the world and get to know other people and other ways of doing things and have all these inputs. Like I always describe myself as a sponge. Like I like to learn and I like to absorb everything that I can. So I just couldn't, like, it got too small. But equally, I've never liked cities. Cities scare the shit out of me, to be honest. I can't do big towns, but mountains, and small villages, that's kind of always what I wanted. Like, I think my first season, I probably was 16. It was like a summer season, but in a glacier in the Alps, and came back when I was 17. So it was like a shorter, like 3.5 months. And from then it was just kind of like started in this loop, and, I'd work to save to go to and start doing all this season traveling.
How did you get into snowboarding? Because obviously you're from a place that's probably, like quite warm weather most of the time.
Well, we do have the Pyrenees, which is only like an hour and a half away. And and it's good snow and it's good terrain. But fairly enough, it's not a country or a place where snowboarding or skiing is big in our culture. That said, I guess I was skiing with my family like twice a year and the ski holidays. And I always was attracted to skateboarding. And the day I saw someone doing that on the snow, I was like, right, I'm going to convince my parents to allow me to do that. So I did. And then I was
the rest is history.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there your first season was Les Deux Alpes.
And Les Deux Alpes, yeah.
What was that season like?
I mean, obviously at 16, you're very young and you have no idea what the hell you're doing. I just wanted to be there and try and get good at snowboarding. I was in a camp, and so I was like still a student. And then I went to like 2 years before university. I continued to study, but I already met people there that kind of became my mentors without even knowing. I got my first story published by telling about, what it is like to spend a summer in the Les Deux Alpes in a glacier, snowboarding during the day and doing other stuff during the evening. And I got that published with my photos and my words already at 16. And then my journey kind of went to, all right, well, now I need to make a decision. My decision was not to continue to uni, which kind of gave my mom and dad a little bit of a heart attack, especially because, I was a straight A girl. So it was kind of like a given. I was like, no, mom, no, dad, I'm not going to do physics anymore. I want to be a snowboard instructor. So they're like, okay, well, make sure you get all the exams done for all these hard work you've done for all these years, and that you can have the doors open to uni if you ever want to. So I said, all right, that sounds like a fair deal. So I did. And they supported me to get my qualifications as an instructor, as a coach and stuff. And soon enough, I realized, I guess that as an 18-year-old, that was my first proper season. I went to the Pyrenees, based in Puigcerdà, which is like the biggest down there. And then it's pretty cool because in half an hour drive, you have 8 to 10 resorts, 2 on the Catalan side and 6 or 7 on the French side. Yeah. So I was working at a ski school there, and every day you'd go to a different resort, and you were based in like a bigger town. But I was already realizing that, instructing and coaching wasn't really my calling. So I enrolled myself in an online university. Like I wanted to continue studying. I just had no interest on going to university every day.
Yeah.
I had other stuff to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to still be in the mountains. So I did that, and then I actually changed again from tourism. I switched to journalism because I thought it was a better fit. And that summer I had to go to Argentina. Like the ski school offered me a position in South America to do the winter season there and keep instructing. And I almost did, but then if I remember correctly, something happened. The Argentinian money got devaluated. They had a bit of a crisis. And so I was like, it's not really worth it for me. Like I probably won't even be able to make a living, to be honest.
Yeah.
So kind of something sparked on me. I'm like, right, so I'm going to continue doing this journalism thing, and I'm going to open a bar, and I'm going to make money in summer. And then I'm going to go to the places I've always wanted to go snowboarding that I've seen in movies and that I see in magazines. So I did.
So you decided to open a bar?
Yeah, I opened a cocktail bar by the beach in La Costa Brava, yes, at 18.
So that is, again, something completely different. Like, what fueled that idea, if you like?
Well, I wanted to make money to be able to do what I wanted to do in winter and not have to work a traditional Seasonaire job. And they always tell you, do what you know, right? I grew up in a restaurant, like my mom and dad have a restaurant.
Right, okay.
So I guess I thought, restaurant, but food, too much work, I can do drinks. So I enrolled myself in like these speedy courses at a culinary school to become a bartender, a mixologist. I actually enjoyed it. Like, I think I had some like talent for like measures and volumes and stuff. Like it's almost like science. So and funny stories, like I did all these courses and I spent like 3-4 years without drinking. So I did all these cocktail making trainings and I didn't taste a drop of it because I wasn't drinking. So it was hilarious because it was, this cocktail's so good. It's like, oh, is it good? Because I'm never
glad you're enjoying it.
I never tried it. So that was a funny one. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I had a moment of brightness in my head. Like, of course, I've got drunk and you do stupid stuff as a teenager and stuff. But I soon enough realized that wasn't going to work for me, especially if I was about to open my own business to make money, to be able to go snowboarding and make it into a journalism in snowboarding. Like, I realized that the night business was a business that a lot of people get lost into.
Yeah.
And so it's like, right, you're 18, you don't know what you don't know. If you get a bit tipsy and you have 2-3 staff working for you at a bar, things can go terribly wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I made the decision of not drinking and to, you know, keep my mind clear. And I'm sure I did a lot of mistakes and, you know, things here and there that I would probably do different now. But at the end of the day, that went well. And I had the bar for a couple of summer seasons, and it allowed me to buy a van, like a dream van, like, you know, Volkswagen, brand new,
really?
California, with everything you could dream of. I was a bit lucky to stumble upon it as well. But having that money thing, which was very risky at the beginning, like I started it from nothing. You know, I just went and got a loan that my parents had to back me up for. And then I had to return it quickly, and I did, and it worked out.
Yeah, that's quite an achievement at 18. Like, was it not at all overwhelming? Or do you think when you're 18, you kind of have like a bit more balls about you, the world hasn't got to you yet, and you kind of, perhaps it is the better time to take those risks, I guess.
Yeah. It was a bit ballsy of me. It was also a bit ballsy of my mom and dad to support that. But would I do it again? Yeah, I think I would.
That's really cool. But you were obviously very focused, you know, like you say, you didn't drink.
Yeah, but I still was 18. With the best will in the world, you're still 18. So you're still like an idiot, and you make mistakes and you lose money in things that you're like, wait, what? So in that sense, I think I haven't grown either. So But anyways, let's skip to the good part, which is that I got a van, and that became like my safe spot. Like, I became like a snail basically. And so the first season after the bar and after the Pyrenees, I went to Solden in Austria.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I didn't speak a word of German. I basically got a map and just went there. And because they have, of course, like the pretty high up glacier, they started their season earlier than any other resort, the time that I could find or understand, because again, not a word of German. And it turned out like I had no idea it was a party town, like absolutely no idea. So I kind of showed up there, and it was like maybe October or end of September, so it was still kind of early season. The glacier was open, so I could snowboard every day. The snow was very good, and nobody was there. I'm like, oh, this is epic. Then I was living in a basement of this guest house of this family, and I was just paying cash because it was like money saved from the bar, and you know, and to travel with the money, I'd have these like 500 euro bills to pay the rent every month. And then we just saw like this 19-year-old girl that showed up in a van. Like, I couldn't speak a word to them, like English, yeah, sort of. Yeah, I kind of became friends with all the staff in the resort. Was all them, because the season hadn't started yet. I felt like I didn't get to meet many people, but one day I spotted a lifty that was roughly my age and had a snowboard. And so I said, do you speak English? You want to go snowboarding in your break? Because I was snowboarding by myself. And I was like, yeah. But that season unfortunately got cut out short because I was still doing my coach training, because I thought, well, you started, you might as well finish it. So I flew back to Spain to do the final exams of that and the final training for that. And there was a jibbing competition in the weekend. So it was like a 2-week training, and there was like a competition in the weekend in the middle. And it was set in this hostel in the Pyrenees in Baqueira. And there was a bus, and there was a box on top of a bus. And they had set it up in the parking lot. So basically we put snow there and we were jibbing, you know, the bus. I think it's like 4 girls competing. It was like a fun event. And I was also taking pictures of it as part of like, yeah, I can take pictures and help you out. Because I always like to take part in the organization of things. And basically I landed on the ice and twisted my knee. And so my season got cut out short. But I had to go back to Austria, get my van back. It was all this massive story, like pay a friend to come with me to drive back for 14 hours. And again, the family in Austria were like, what the fuck is going
This strange Spanish girl with all this money in this van, and now she's paying this person to come with her.
It was odd. So I guess that was a bit of a tryout season to try and make it while studying and whilst doing these things. But anyways, it allowed me to go back, focus on my physical therapy, and focus on the bar to save up more. So my goal and my ambition for the next season was even bigger. Mm-hmm. And I said Canada.
Oh, wow.
And so I went to Whistler.
Oh, cool. So you went back to the bar in between?
Yes.
Okay.
And the only way I could afford to, go 6-7 months, I think I spent in Canada without working there, because I couldn't even get a working visa. Because back then, I remember for the English people and for Australians and even for Czech, there were big communities of them there. Mm-hmm. This was like 2009. So they had a lot of course, Commonwealth, but also other countries, they had a lot of working holiday visa agreements. But for Spain, they were like a lottery of 4 for the whole Spain.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't my plan to stay there anyways. I was studying, like I remember I flew back to do my exams in Feb, and I went back again because I was studying in Madrid, where the university is based in Madrid. And I just said, right, well, you've saved this money, you work your ass off. Now do it, right? Mm-hmm. The only thing I missed in Canada was my van that I had to park for 6 months. But it was a great learning experience to be there. Like I had never really left Europe before, and yeah, it was at all levels great. When I go places, and for seasons, I always, especially if it's a faraway country, I always like to kind of know more of where I'm going and what I'm visiting and what I'm doing there. So I took the last month and I did the Trans-Canadian trip by train. So I went across Canada by train, and I even went up to the Hudson Bay because I wanted to experience more than just, I felt like Whistler is great. It's a great mountain, but it's a bit like Disneyland. Mm-hmm. It was also pre-Olympic year or pre-Olympic season. So they were building all this up. And so it was like, yeah, it's heaven, for a snowboard. It's like what you've seen in movies. But yeah. I want to know more about Canada, and I want to know more about the culture. And so I took that trip solo as well. And that was really, really exciting.
Oh, wow. Any highlights from that trip?
Yeah, I think when I talk to any Canadians, like, oh, yeah, I've been in Churchill. They're like, wait, what? It's like, but up in the Arctic Sea. It's like, yeah. It takes 2.5 days by train to get there.
Oh, wow.
And you have to wait there 2.5 days until the next train comes back, unless you leave on the same one. There's no roads. The closest town is Thompson, which is 24 hours by train. I mean, yeah, of course you can fly with a little plane, but that's super expensive. That's literally the middle of nowhere. So that was cool. I don't know. Yeah. I liked it.
Awesome. Yeah. So after Canada, what did you do next? Where did you head to?
Then I went to France. So I started to get more and more into taking pictures and traveling with snowboard crews and trying to get stuff published and trying to work out how that worked. I did that, and then the Nikita Twister became the ladies' first challenge, and I did that for a couple other years, but I was already living abroad, so the traveling logistics were harder. So I did that season in Avery. As I traveled a lot, I took advantage of, having the van and being in the Central Alps, and kind of everything was closer. And yeah, it's a bit of a blur, but I kind of was all over the place. So I was still trying to, I think I was doing social media and little jobs, like little freelance shitty jobs that I could get my hands on to just pay rent and gas, basically. I mean, I got to meet in Avarias, I don't even know how, but I got to meet a group of Russian snowboarders, and they were so good, yet so fucking crazy, and I got to shoot with them. I don't even know how I linked up with them. And now it turns out, Kirill was one of their photographers. He's like one of the biggest Nikon photographers in Russia and in the world, and he does amazing work. And it was just this very natural, like, kind of when you let yourself live it happens. And also the person who I met through that trip was Aliona Lekina, who was then a Roxy rider, still is a Roxy team member, but she was competing. She was like the Russian halfpipe champion and she was going to the Olympics and stuff. She is this amazing personality. Like, she speaks Russian, English, Spanish. She plays the piano. She snowboarded, like, she plays music. She sings. Like, she's amazing. And we connected really well. And we shot, and it was like one of those memories that I cherish. And it's got a bit of a sad turn, this story, but because I think it was that season, actually. In spring, she went to California. Or was it the year after? Forget. But basically, she had a silly accident falling over a sofa, springtime, and she can't walk. So she's been in a wheelchair since. And it still amazes me how much pain and bad stuff she has gone through, yet she has managed to come on the other side of things, and she's now a massive like sing star and like model and role model, and still does all this voluntary work at hospitals with kids. And I don't know, it's one of those moments that I link back to Avrias, and that if I wouldn't have been there, and for me, the places I go is the people I meet and these kind of relationships I nurture. I think it was also the season where I took I think it's the first picture I got published in the Reason magazine, which was of Amy Fuller in the stash at the snow park there. So that was cool, because she was just starting out and we were kind of just helping each other out. And now look at her, she's in like presenting BBC Olympic shows and stuff. So amazing. So that's really cool. But also the whole tour of like the Ladies First Child or Nikita's store, then, I saw riders coming out of there that then have become world-class athletes and girls that kind of shaped their careers from there. And I don't know. Again, I feel like all these travels and all these seasons, what brings me back to them is the people I met. And I've seen them again, and I keep in touch, and it's really cool. And then after that, I saved up a little bit. I don't even know how the hell I managed, but I guess when you're alone in 20, you don't need much. So I managed to buy a flight to New Zealand and go to Wanaka for the summer, their winter season, when snow park, because, I was like, oh, I want to make it in the industry. I want to become this photographer. I want to do all this stuff. You need to know the riders. You need to know you need to go where the action is. So I snow park and said what was happening then. So I did that.
You still continued with the studying and the journalism side of things, and obviously clearly got into photography quite heavily at this point.
So I guess that was 2010. That's when I got my first ad published. I think K2 Snowboarding published an ad for a Spanish rider that I took the picture there in New Zealand, and it kind of just escalated from there. Then I moved to Andorra because I met my boyfriend at the time, and he was working at a snow park there. And it was when I decided around then to start the magazine, because after the 2009 recession, there were a lot of blogs, a lot of magazines in Spain and in Europe, and a lot of them started to close down, and Spain kind of had nothing. And I was like, no, I need to continue this. So then...
Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
I saved up a little bit, enough to pay my good friend Mel a trip to Les Deux Alpes for a week. She coded and designed my website. And so I just pulled the people I knew, like a lot of the people I had met in the Spanish scene in the Les Deux Alpes and then the resorts there. And I just kind of started writing and did a magazine and did a launch party and did events and did like rail jams. And I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know. And I was working for this Andorra resort, and I was running like social media and comms for their snow park.
Did the Women in Action Sports first thing start before the Spanish snowboard magazine?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It did. In 2009, the first Women in Boat Sports, what it was called then, retreat happened in Sassfe in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And it was just a gathering of women like Carmela, Fleury, Daniela Mayer, and Marika Borg. They're three amazing women, and they realized that a lot of the women in the industry didn't even know each other, and that we're all looking for connections and doing the same thing. So they just organized this nice weekend in Sassfe, and an amazing thing came out there, and that event kind of repeated itself for like 7 or 8 years. I stumbled up on this event because of my mentor at the time. She was based in Madrid. She's a former Olympian as well. And she had a little girls sports magazine. And we were trying to create this project together. but I was basically just learning from her. She became like my big sister. She's like, oh, a friend of a friend told me that this is happening in Sassafras. Should we go? And I said, yeah, let's go. But I was still very much like studying and kind of learning. I feel like a big part of my learning experience was from her, because she was also a journalist and an entrepreneur. You know, like she had 2 degrees and an Olympic career, and she was only 25 or something. So it was a great mentor to have. And yeah, I kind of just got there and I realized, oh, wow, these people don't even have social media. And I mean, it was still kind of new then, or I can take photos for them. So I instantly felt like I wanted to get involved. And that was something that I could be part of. And so I just did.
Yeah.
And that was kind of parallel to everything else. And it was an ongoing thing together with my moving around. So every year it was almost kind of nice, because the first 5 or 6 years that happened in Sassafras, it was like October came and you'd go back to Sassafras, you know, you kind of go around and then go back there for the weekend to see and meet new women. So that was great.
Yeah, really cool.
So I worked very hard and I traveled a lot. I was still traveling to Switzerland to do the shooting. So I was moving a lot that year. I was moving a lot.
Yeah. And
then I did the last bit of that season I spent in Breckenridge, again, trying to look for where the riders were at. And they were there. They were in Colorado. They were training. The Breckenridge Park was like the place they would go and train. And the reason that I looked for parks is because it was easier to kind of get to, in those environments, to get into the backcountry if you didn't have a crew, right? Yeah. So, and around then, I guess I met Seth Hill, who was a US rider riding for Sims at the time. And we traveled a lot together. We shot a lot together. He came to Andorra, stayed with us, traveled in Europe with him for a bit, kind of, you know, shot a lot with him, did a lot of street spots, we kind of both were hustling in our own ways. And the season after, I spent more time in the US, doing other projects as well with other riders and traveling back and forth to Andorra, still running the magazine. So trying to do all the trade shows. I don't know. I slowly, I kind of build this future, or not this future, but this kind of thing that it wasn't really a thing, but it was enough to be a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So for me, the magazine, SBES Mag, has never really been a salary maker, rather an opportunity maker.
Okay.
And I've embraced that, and I've used it to get me to the places I wanted to go and then do whatever I needed to do on the side.
How did you actually go about starting the magazine? Tell us a bit about that. Like, what were the processes that you had to go through to get to that point?
The processes then set a structure. I guess I was building a strategy without even knowing what I was doing. And now I guess I replicate what I learned then for every project I start. And that was a really valuable lesson. And that's around the time I kind of lost interest in university. And it's because I was already doing this
by
myself. And I was already making a living out of it somehow. I guess, you know, in uni, they were trying to give us all this knowledge to help us be able to create these structures. And I was already creating these structures by myself, whether it's, you know, finding an editorial voice, a line of content, a line of promotion, a media kit, but mostly a concept of what is, like the W questions, right? And that can be applied to every project you do. And that's, for me, that's the starting point. Whenever I have a blank page and I need to start, it's like I have an idea, or I think I have an idea, or a client needs something, or I just put a blank page and I write the what, why, for who, when, and where, and, you know, and I try and write that down. And when that's down, I did a lot of planning, a lot of drawing, a lot of scribbling. So I guess that was mainly the process.
Have you got other people working on it now, or what's the situation at the moment with the magazine?
This year is going to be our 10th, in September is going to be our 10th anniversary. So I guess it's going well. I don't run the day-to-day really anymore. I write articles and pieces that I want. And I feel like yesterday I published one about snowboarding with a baby, because that's where I am at now, and I felt like it, so I did.
Perks of the job.
Yes. No, but I have Chavi, who kind of came on board a year after the magazine was born, and he's just this super passionate super altruist. Is that the right word? And he just does it on the side. Like he's got his 9-to-5 job at a workshop, a car shop, whatever. And then he does this and he loves it and he's kept it alive all this time. And then we have other, like Marina is also a great shredder that she lives in Innsbruck.
Oh, cool.
And she contributes with us and we've made friends. It's a small community. So it's a place that people go to find snowboarding and we like to promote everyone.
Yeah.
And again, I guess because it's never been driven for money or for making a big profit out of it rather than just keep it going. If we have a head advertiser that keeps it going, so it doesn't cost us money and it gives us opportunities of things that we want to do and allow to promote other people, that we're happy with that.
That's amazing. Yeah. Nice. So did you do any other seasons after New Zealand?
Oh yeah, New Zealand, I went to Andorra, then I did Andorra and Breckenridge, then I did Breckenridge, then I did back to the Pyrenees. I think I'm forgetting some. And then I moved to London.
Totally different again then. What did you move to London for?
Well, I met my ex-husband.
Okay.
And I didn't want a long distance relationship, so the only thing for me to doing it was to move to London. I was working for a Korean outerwear company at the time.
Okay.
I was their global marketing director. My job was to kind of bring out, because they're the biggest outerwear brand in Korea, or snowboarding specific, to bring it to the Western, so Europe and the US. It didn't quite work out. Like they pulled out in the middle of the process. Like they got scared and they realized that they were happy just staying in Korea. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I was doing that on top of the magazine and other little jobs again.
Nice.
That's me.
Yeah.
I did a year in London. I hated it. And I said, right, either we live together or I leave. I was living in zone 1. Like it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So he said, all right, well, I've never done a winter season. Why don't we go somewhere in the mountains? And ideally, I'd like to be Spain, so I get to learn the language because he's English. And I was like, all right. So we moved to the Pyrenees, back to Puigcerdà, where I did my first season.
Oh, wow.
As an 18-year-old. It looked a bit different, the setup. Of course, he had his own company. I had my own, and we were working from home, which is the great perks, of remote work, that you can just go anywhere you like. We still tried to snowboard as much as we could. But yeah, so we were like grown-up seasonaires, if you will.
So yeah, like you've worked in a freelance capacity for a lot of those seasons.
Always. I don't think I've ever had a proper job, or not a proper job, but like I don't think I've never been employed.
Did you manage to integrate into like the Seasonaire community?
Oh yeah, all the time. If you go to the bars.
Yeah, exactly. Did you start drinking again?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Is like the snowboarding is fun and being in the mountains is awesome, but it's like also good to be part of the community. And I was just wondering what it was like as a freelancer, really.
I was the one that was doing a season, but with different purposes than everyone else. Yeah, it was like, I'm not just going to work in a chalet to be here and snowboard for a season. No. I'm going to be snowboarding for life, and I'm going to be doing this for life, a way or another.
Yeah, you're building something. It seems like you went about it kind of a smart way, rather than going out and doing all the, just here for the party, here for the snowboard. You, like John Weaver, I don't know if you know John, but John was on the show. And he was like, always have something going on for yourself as well as doing the Seasonaire thing. Don't just make it a big piss up. Like, have something there. And it seems like you've done that throughout all of your seasons, is that you've been constantly working towards working in the industry that you want to work in. So,
I mean, I enjoyed the seasons, and I enjoyed the fun of it, and the kind of ups and downs, and the changes and all of that. But also, I've always had something running. I've also had a bigger project or a bigger picture. I guess just dreams. I like to daydream a lot. Like when you kind of, it's like, I wonder if that can happen. When you have the courage to go and try and you don't stop yourself, amazing things happen, right? Like I remember. And it sounds like, oh yeah, she's done it and she's gone all these places and she's working in the industry. Well, right. Let me give you the insider story. Like, I got this season, I was in the Pyrenees before meeting my now ex-husband and moving to London and stuff. I think I've never been so poor. Like, or no, I mean, yes, I guess I have, but I think it's the first time I didn't allow myself to that stop me, to not have the security of having a more income. So I was doing some social media for the Spanish resorts, like a group of 6 resorts, through a subcontractor, whatever. So that paid fuck all. Like I could pay rent and buy food. That was it. And that year I achieved more than I have ever, or it's the year I'm most proud of. Like that year I went to Alaska, which was a dream since I was a girl, of course. And I got to produce a series of 5 webisodes for Red Bull.
Wow, for Red Bull?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, because you kind of just happen out of persistence. Yeah. I got to China. I went to snowboard an event in China, taking one of our Spanish riders and as a photographer. And my parents weren't going through a good moment either. So I don't think I've told this to anyone, but I basically went to China with 10 euros in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
My credit cards were maxed out.
Oh, my goodness.
Like I spent the pay of that month to buy the ticket to China for going to that week event.
Whoa.
I mean, of course I went because, you know, the event would pay out hotel and food and stuff there. So I knew I was covered for. Mm-hmm. But I also knew like I couldn't have any kind of emergency outside of the line or anything.
Yeah.
I think with that 10 euros, I bought a Chinese made t-shirt for a friend that was having a baby at home.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. I would do it all over again.
Yeah.
It was nerve-wracking for sure. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel so proud that I did that and that I made great friends there and that I still have now and that they went connections after and they gave me a deeper understanding of this and I had the opportunity to go to China snowboard.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like if you think about those risks that you've taken have paid off in one way or another. Like they've given you all these amazing experiences that have then gone on to, you know, build your career. That's what it's all about.
It's funny because a lot of the people sometimes think, oh, you know, you have all this money saved out. Like a lot of people don't realize how little budgets you need to do things. Mm-hmm. I just never really talked about it because I was like, well, I'm doing it, aren't I? Like I don't need to explain whether I have 10 or 10,000 euros in my bank account. Like I'm just doing this. Either you believe in what I do or you don't.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. For sure. There's a lot of setbacks and a lot of anxiety that comes with that. But when you manage to overcome it, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now looking back, it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's the same with the podcast, you know, like it's the year I'm most proud of. The last year, and I'm not making it any money, not really making a lot of money from it, but you know, opportunities have come from it and all sorts. So
yeah, that's the thing. It might end up in a way that you never expected, but because you're putting yourself out there and you're kind of trying, you don't know, maybe the skills you're learning from this become something else. Right?
There we go. Yeah, exactly.
That's the way I like to think. Because otherwise I wouldn't have done any of this, I don't think.
So you did the China thing. Where was after that? What was the rest of your journey?
So I was in the Pyrenees, yeah, and that at the end of the season, through like together with Fishy, we presented and pitched this project. We were both going through a rough moment, like you know, he had been one of the founders of Pleasure magazine, and I.
Who was that?
Marcus Fisher.
Okay,
but he's an amazing photographer, and he's just like a multi-talented, creative designer. You know, he and a sick snowboarder and a legend in the industry. But of course, you know, he was going through this transition of closing or walking away from Pleasure, and he started then working at GoPro after a while. But yeah, it was a transition for him, and I was like, I just want to make shit happen. Mm-hmm. And we kind of did this project together, designed it together, and he wanted to go to Alaska. He had some connections there to Tailgate Alaska, which is like a festival they organize in springtime in Valdez, close to Valdez and Thompson Pass. And I mean, I know it's changed a bit over the years, but it was basically a parking lot that they set up in the middle of this pass in Alaska, and they bring in porta toilets, and they set up a tent from the avalanche center there, and then they have like workshops and stuff, but it's more like a get together, you know. It's called tailgate because people go with their RVs or you rent them, and then they work out deals so people from overseas can go, and you're in a very good place that really good terrain is accessible from there. And by having all that community there, what means is that every day you get a report, so you know whether it's safe or it isn't, and you always can go with people that kind of know. It's basically a good way to entry the backcountry when you're not a backcountry king, right?
Okay.
Or like I thought it was really interesting, and I got to meet Mark Sullivan and Rasmus Vestergaard at the time, who were the ones organizing it, and Fish and I convinced them to give us a pass for free in exchange of giving them some media coverage.
Cool.
But that still meant, you know, like you get to park your RV for free, but you still need to rent your RV. You still need to pay your ticket. You still need to get your gear. You still need to get gas money if you want sled rides or heli rides or whatever. So is that right? Well, we'll get split boards. Yeah, we got some sled money, but yeah, like heliboarding didn't happen for us that year. But it was part of the story we wanted to tell on how you can access the mountain in different ways.
Yeah.
And of course, it's like already a few years ago before split boarding exploded, right? I didn't even own a split board at the time. So anyway, yeah, we kind of put this concept together and we pitched it at Rebel. And I remember when we finally got someone to listen, was like, oh, right. And we were so scared to ask for money. So we kind of priced it so low.
Oh, no.
We basically calculated how much we needed to pay the tickets and sustain ourselves there for that time. And we split it 50-50 and, you know, that kind, and someone to edit it. And so we basically sold it at cost, like at a very low cost, without even taking into consideration what we might need to make it better. But anyways, we did it. And I think we learned, either you win or you learn, right? So I think we kind of did both here. But it was great, yeah.
So what was your role in that?
Yeah, so I basically wrote the storyline. Like I scripted it without even knowing what a script was. And so I did the interviews, and then I sat down with the editors and we created this thing, and I put the voiceover on it, and then I wrote the stories and I took the photos, and Fishy did all the video recording.
Awesome.
So it was very much kind of learning by doing.
Yeah.
Which was great. And again, that opened doors afterwards. And, you know, and just again, to give another insider thing, like I of course they paid us, but they paid us when we delivered the project. So I didn't have the money up front to go. So I had to go. I knew my ex-boyfriend had saved up some money and he didn't need it for a while because he was doing this season in Austria. Anyways, I knew he needs to do. It's like, can I borrow a couple of grand so I can buy a flight to Alaska? I have a contract and I signed it. So the money's coming back. So I will get paid and you will get it back. I'm not sure when though, but it's coming. And bless his heart, he was kind enough to say yes. So yeah, big shout out to him. But also then I didn't have a split board. And I remember reaching out to the regional Burton rep and being like, do you have a split board I can borrow? Like, I'm going to Alaska tomorrow. And they're like, wait, what? Like, do you have bindings? No. Oh, God, okay.
And they let you?
Yeah.
That was so cool.
I remember picking up the split board and the bindings and the adapters, and I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing.
That's class.
Like 2 hours before heading to the airport. Like, yeah, it was.
But it all worked out in the end.
It worked out. It was great. Like, I have some of the best memories out there. Like, we landed there. Of course, my board bag got lost, and then I slept on the RV, picked it up, and the rest of the crew came. I was in an RV with like 4 Germans, 1 girl and 3 guys, and they spent 10 days arguing in German, and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then we also, like, the next day after we arrived at camp, jet lagged as hell, and it's like, right, Alba, we're going out. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, yeah. And so I remember Fish and I got all the camera gear. He managed to get into the True Color Films crew and Karua Shapes guys, and they were trying these things and they were filming. And so we went out with them. They found these local guys that had sleds, but they didn't have enough. So we had to split for half of the way. And so we basically went to the Books, which is like this kind of glacial area in the middle of nowhere, which is pretty deep, far in. I don't even know how much in, but like you're far. And they took tents and everything, and we camped there.
Wow.
And there's this clip of me, is like, when you kind of come over this, because the last bit we did with the sled, and you see this valley, and I'm like, is that where we're gonna sleep? I was frozen because it was like -30, right? I was like, fuck! Yeah, so I guess this is the moments you cherish the most. And
yeah. Little memories.
Never mind that I almost froze to death that night because I didn't have the proper gear. But again, you learn your lessons.
You live and you learn, yeah. So following on from Alaska and almost freezing to death, where did you head after that?
Yeah, I think that summer I was I was organizing these little events for the magazine and this little brand and doing bits and pieces, and like still very much pumped up with being able to do a lot with very little, and started to kind of thrive on my own self. And that's when I met Paul, my ex-husband, and soon after decided to move to London that coming winter, which was a year. And then again, we went back to the Pyrenees. Pyrenees was great, but then he was like, oh, maybe we should, be adults. And I asked him to marry me, and bought him a bottle of milk to celebrate, because there was a vending machine that you could buy milk, so why wouldn't you? So there's like, all right, maybe we should do the grown-up thing, and we're looking to buy a house. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't necessarily want to go back to my village, but as it happens, like, my mom and dad kind of were in a transition themselves, and they found a new place for their new bar restaurant. So we went there to help them out building it from the ground up, literally building it. And we saw this house, or he saw this house in the village, and he said, yeah, we can afford it. I'm shit at money, so he was the one that said, yeah, I think we can afford it. So we went for it. Soon after, he made me sell my van, though, which I still haven't forgiven him from that. But it made sense at the time. And so, yeah, we kind of moved there, and I kind of became someone else. And that sounds very wrong, and it's not specifically that. Like, I explored other sides of myself, but it wasn't, ultimately, it wasn't who I was, or not in an environment I'd thrive. Like, I started doing job for him for a new learning company, and just because I could, like, I learned fast. So, you need a translator, you need a project manager, you need this, I'll do anything. Like, but then, you realize that's not maybe the best fit. And from living in a van basically for 10 years to owning a 10-bedroom house with an acre of land.
Wow.
And all the responsibility that entails is like a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was very much in love, and I did wanted a kid. So I said, all right, let's have a kid. So I got pregnant and got little Pia. Yeah. And before she was 1, I think things weren't great, and I felt like something wasn't quite right in our relationship. So after a rocky road, a few months, I asked for a divorce, and he moved back to the UK. It's like figuring out house, baby, work. What the fuck do I do? Yeah. With a lot of support and therapy, I managed to get it all sorted, and and bought him out and did the right thing and stuff. And in the process, I allowed myself to fall in love again, a bit unexpectedly, with Frederick, and he's the reason why I'm in Sweden now. And to be honest, we're just still trying to figure out what the hell we're doing. He's got 2 older children, and I have Pia, and we're again learning by doing.
Was it around the time of your divorce that you went back out to other places, or or?
Right. So when Pia was born, I think in her first year of life, she has been in 9 countries.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, for the ones that aren't moms, the first year of a baby's life, doesn't matter how equal your relationship is, the weight is on the mother, especially if you're breastfeeding. So I can claim I did that. Like 100%. Like, yeah, he was there sort of supporting, like, as they best can and as much you allow them to. But I think that urge in me, like, I tried to describe this in my friend's words. So I have a friend who's a sports psychologist, and she had a baby around the same time I did. And we hadn't spoken for a while. And after a while, I was like, hey, Elena, how you doing? Blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I'm better now that I've passed the grief. And I'm like, wait, who died?
Yeah.
I was like, no, nobody died. It's just, my old me and my new me. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, like you as a mom, you have to grieve your old person when you become a mother because you lose that person forever. Like the day your son or daughter is born, you lose your person forever.
Yeah.
And you have to grieve that person because it's a new one now as a mother, which is awesome and it's great and it's everything, but it's still a loss of something, especially in a person like myself. Was like my freedom and my person was like really important. And it's like, and when I was able to voice that in that way, I was like, oh, that's what I've been feeling for a year.
Quite a realization.
It's like I couldn't put the words on something that I had been feeling so strongly.
Yeah.
And fighting against it. Like, I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those mothers that changed their life completely. I'm going to continue to be myself and do what I do and take my baby everywhere. Which I continue to do that, but more acknowledging that that's what I'm doing because I choose to do that rather than trying to fight against this grief of I've lost my old me.
Yes.
Sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, adapting to the new you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I snowboard with Bia a lot. She just learned how to go top to bottom on her own last weekend. So
that's my goodness.
Super exciting.
That's so cute.
3 years of snowboarding with her, my back is now like, yay! I might not have 3 disc hernias anymore. So.
So you are now based in Sweden. How is that? What's that transition like? And are you still doing quite a bit of traveling? What's your situation?
I mean, a bit less, but I still try to travel a bit. Mostly, I mean, after these 2 years of COVID and stuff. But yeah, I do what I can for sure. And funny story is that I just got my Swedish residency number. And after all these years living in 10 plus countries, I had actually never really, in the UK, I did register, but I never deregistered from Spain. But here's the first time I actually registered and deregistered from Spain.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm now officially a Swedish resident in all capacities. Wow. Still haven't got a bank account in Sweden yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Working on it.
So how are you enjoying it there?
It takes an adjusting because the seasons here are very much seasons. Like winter is dark, summer is bright, and it kind of fucks up with your brain a little bit. Right now, it's kind of more of the normal, half day, half night kind of time. November is the worst time because there's no snow and it's really cold and it's really dark. When the snow comes, it's much easier and much more enjoyable. Yeah. But I'm really learning the process of seeing how things are different and the quirky bits of the culture and stuff. It's also hard at times because I have no community yet. I have no family here. I have no support with Bia except for my partner. So yeah, and I work from home, so it's harder for me to learn the language. So there is definitely challenges to overcome and still be worked on. But I still feel like I can keep doing this. I'm already saying like, hey, can we do some seasons in Spain and some seasons in Sweden and who knows what else? So I guess that mentality, once a seasonaire, always a seasonaire. So seasonaire.
Exactly.
Always a seasonaire.
Exactly. And we'll get to hear more from Alba after this short ad break. Fancy taking the leap and working abroad? Gap 360 are a UK-based travel company that offer over 200 experiences in over 50 amazing destinations, including incredible working holiday opportunities in Australia available right now. Gap 360 have a team of expert travel advisors to plan your working holiday and can help with flights, visa advice, insurance and budget planning. Start your working holiday with a fun, life-changing week in Sydney, Melbourne or the Queensland coast with a group of like-minded travellers before 12 months of job support from Gap 360's local dedicated teams to find your perfect job down under. It's time to work and play the Aussie way. Next month, Gap 360 will be launching an incredible opportunity to help make your Australia working holiday dream a reality. So head to gap360.com/seasonaire to sign up and be the first in the know. So I will now move on to the questions that I kind of ask everyone, if that's all right with you.
Okay, yeah.
So what was your pandemic experience like?
It's a funny one because Sweden hasn't had many restrictions. Up here definitely didn't feel like restrictions were a thing. They had recommendations, so there were never really, locked down or anything like that. But I wasn't quite living in Sweden yet. I came to visit for like a week with Bia, and that turned into 10 days, and then that turned into 5 months. And we were still very much trying to work out whether, I could move in here, our relationship could work, family life, whatever. So it kind of forced us a little bit to move into this. Sometimes I feel maybe too forced, but however it's my story. And I guess for me, it was like the fact that first I wanted to go back to Spain because that's where Pia had, nursery and childcare and stuff. And then I realized it was too stressful. I think I spent like 3,000 euros in flights trying to work out the layovers and whether I could or couldn't, where I then could come back or I couldn't. They would let me in. Because at the beginning was like a lot of misinformation and a lot of anxiety around traveling.
Yeah.
So I then decided, well, Pia's here. I have my laptop with me. I can work. Luckily, my family are good. We're sorted and they are not kicking me out. So I can stay put for a bit and see how this plays out. What that meant is like until we actually then made the move and registered Pia in school and stuff on and off, I spent 1.5 years with Pia 24/7 with me. Not 100% of the pandemic because the schools were working here. That's the thing. Like, my partner was going to work and the kids were in school, except Pia that she was with me because she wasn't registered here because of this kind of moving situation. So it's like as a result of a pandemic, but also my circumstances. So yeah, I spent a year and a half having 5 different massive projects and working out still all the divorce paperwork and money and that plus 2-year-old.
Yeah.
24/7 at home. So dealing with the time management, the guilt of having her watch too much TV and, feeling isolated despite people not really being isolated here. It was still a bit weird. It was like a pandemic within a pandemic that wasn't really a pandemic. I don't have a better way to describe that. It was a bit of an odd one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds it. So if someone was planning to only do one season, where would you recommend them to go and why?
Oh, that's a really tough one, Gina. I don't like that one.
Sorry.
As a little girl, as I said before, I like to daydream a lot. And my dream was like, imagine I could go to every city in every country in the whole wide world. I don't even know how many would that be, right? So trying to answer this is like, not really happening. I would say don't just do one. Do as many as you can and take where the circumstances take you. Go
Definitely.
follow it.
It's a good answer. Great answer.
Good. I thought you wanted me to say, I don't know, like France or Italy, or I was like, I don't know.
No, it's good. It's good to say, like, don't limit yourself, for sure. So obviously you've always kind of worked in a freelance capacity, but you've worked on various different jobs in a freelance capacity. So what was your best and what was your worst jobs and why?
I think defining jobs in terms of best and worst is really tricky because every job has both aspects, good and bad, and it depends how you take them, and it depends how much you're willing to learn from them. I think as long as you keep authentic to who you are and what your goal is and stand up for yourself when you have to, you can go about anything, right? Like nothing's perfect and nothing is absolute shit.
Yeah.
So it depends where you are at that moment to do what it is. Like, I don't know. For instance, one thing that comes to mind is I was so innocent with this stuff, but when I had the bar, I remember cleaning the toilet and it's like, oh, what's this white dust? Right? The realization that people were doing coke in the toilet of my bar was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know why this came to my mind, but it was like, is that the worst thing that happened then? No, probably not. But again, it was like a part of it. It's like a learning experience. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, how could you be so dumb, right? But I guess for me, the worst parts of freelance jobs is when they don't work out with who you work with. And when you have to part ways with partners, colleagues, clients, whether it's because it's almost like a breakup, right?
Yeah,
it's like the relationship is not working, or either one or the other aren't getting what they need or the thing they need, or in the way they think they need it. And that's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's definitely the hardest part to being a freelancer, if you wish, or as a freelancer in general. The ups and downs and not having the stability is definitely a tricky one. You can learn to live with it, but you never get rid of that anxiety completely. But at the same time, it's addictive. Like for me, the thought, I had job offers that it would be pretty much for life if I wanted to. And I declined them. And I declined them at times that I was complaining that I didn't have stability. But then the thought of having that stability for the rest of my life and not having to change anything is like almost more overwhelming than not knowing what I would do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's not for everyone, but if it is, it is.
Yeah. Are there any jobs that you went on that you just thought, this is amazing, this is the best thing I've ever done? Obviously the best thing you've ever done is probably having a child, but other than that.
Oh, really? No. I mean, some days.
But in terms of work, is there any kind of job where you were just like, this is awesome?
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with a colleague today. I was like, we're so lucky that we get to do what we love every single day.
Yeah.
And some days we make more, some days we make less, some days we like it more, some days we like it less. But ultimately, we're doing something we're passionate about. Sometimes you forget that not everyone does that, even though they chose their actual career. But I would say that right now what I'm doing with the Women in Action Sports Network, which is still taking off really, when I'm tired from my other work with writing, like I do a lot of writing now for Red Bull Spain and the magazines and stuff and the bike park. But when I'm tired, I'm like, I just put my attention on the Women in Action Sports Network, and I enjoy it so much that yesterday I did a 12-hour day and I even didn't realize. And that's when I think, and I've had this feeling a lot of times in a lot of work, but right now this is what I'm enjoying because it has, again, something more to it. It's not just about the money. It's not just about the task you're doing. It's about the potential it has, the good in the community, connecting people, the kind of onto the next thing and how can this play out. And I enjoy that very much.
Yeah, it's quite a rewarding area to work in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In your job, talking about what you do and all the different parts of that, all the different aspects, what is the what is your favorite aspect of your job? Because obviously you do the photography, you do the storytelling and the journalism, the writing side of things, you do interviews, all sorts of things. What is your favorite part of working in that environment?
I think it's getting to know the people's stories, for sure. It has to be that.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, right. I couldn't think of anything else. And being able to enjoy it with them and be part of it. Like the belonging is a big part. Like you're belonging of this community and you're building this story together and you're part of people's stories somehow. So yeah, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, people.
Awesome. Where is the best place you've ever visited and why? That's got to be difficult. You've been to a lot of places.
Yeah, that's hard. I don't like your questions.
Sorry, they're too difficult, aren't they?
It's like choosing. No. I mean, yeah, so Alaska definitely has that little piece of my heart because it was so hard to make it happen. And it was a long dream come true. And I almost died. And, it was very intense. But maybe more of a recent one would be we went to Chile in 2019, just before the pandemic. And we hiked up this volcano. It wasn't like particularly the biggest or anything, but, we got to snowboard down the crater and I thought it was very special, but mostly I enjoyed. And again, I'm going back to people because the places are great, but if you share them with people are even better. And I saw Freddie, my partner, kind of the relief and the smile after a shit period of his life and being able to share. And for me as well, we were in a similar moment and we were able to share that moment together on top of a bloody volcano and then snowboarded down it. It was, that was pretty epic. But then last weekend, being able to do the first snowboard run with my daughter that she wasn't even strapped. Like I have this leash, literally a leash, so she doesn't just go down. But now she's learned how to stop, slide down, edge control and all that stuff. So, and she just turned 4. So yeah, we're just in awe and being able to kind of look down the valley and see her snowboarding in front of me while singing.
Cute.
She was just singing. Sometimes you realize you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You just have to be here.
In the moment.
Which is hard.
Yeah, it is. In your opinion, what is the best thing about season life or being a seasonaire in general?
This can be answered in many ways, but I think for a lot of people, it's less daunting to think, I'm going to try out for a season. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back. It's not like you're committing long term to change your life forever and you can never go back to. And I think to get into that season by season lifestyle, it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
And then you just get stuck into it just like me. But
15 years later.
Yeah. And then you think, and then you realize that actually every choice you make and every decision you make, it changes and shapes whatever comes after. So even though it's that kind of comfort of, I can just go try it out because you're choosing to try that out. You're rejecting some other stuff. And that's a good thing, right? Like it can only be a good thing. Again, it's not for everyone. You see a lot of people come and go. And probably that's the saddest part, right? Like it always comes to an end. But then if it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can you tell us about a challenge or difficulty you faced during your journey, one that stands out, and what did you learn from it?
I feel tears coming up.
Oh, no.
No. I mean, I guess loneliness can be a huge thing. And I'm not particularly bothered by being alone. I'm an only child, an only grandchild. Like I've played by myself the whole of my life. But it's different to be alone than feeling lonely. And for some reason, doing seasons or maybe just being far away or choosing, because I feel like, at least in my journey, doing these seasons, it was like setting myself challenge after challenge after challenge. And so with that comes loneliness sometimes because you're, again, choosing something over something else or someone over someone else or an opportunity over another opportunity. So that can bring loneliness because you stop belonging in one place. But then in time and looking back now, I belong to a community and a lot of people instead of just one place. So I feel less lonely. Although sometimes it'd be nice to just have my friends closer, But
yeah.
I guess that's the hardest bit, at least for me.
Yeah. And what's one thing you wish you had known before going on your first season?
I am thinking so many things, but I guess my first season I was quite young, so I was like, don't trust the older guys that give you beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you've had many, many unbelievable experiences. Are there any opportunities or memorable stories that stand out to you that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't have left Spain in the first place to go and work seasons?
Every single one of them. And I realize every time I go back to the village, just a few seasons in, not even this far, maybe like 3 or 4, but I remember bumping into who was my best friend at school, high school. And we had lost touch. And I was driving the van. I was like, jump in, like, let's go have a coffee. She was like, oh, okay. And we went for coffee at this like awful shopping center. And I was like, so how have you been? Because we kind of fell out the last few weeks of school. And as it happens, you're a teenager and whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah, you remember I met that guy? Like, yeah, still with him. A few years on, like after finishing university and everything. It's like, oh, cool. It's like, so what did you study? Oh, I did economics. I'm working at a bank where I did my internship at a bank, and I'm hoping now that they'll offer me the job. And, I'm saving up and I'm looking into maybe buying a flat. And yeah, hopefully we'll get married and these things. Oh, yeah, I got to Rome or to Paris last year. And it was this story and it was cool. And it was good to see her. But at the same time, when she asked back, like, how had I been and what I was up to, I wasn't sure if I should just make it all up.
Yeah.
And just say that I had a job at a local shop. And because I kept talking and I kept seeing in her eyes, first, I think it was judgment because, like she had been with this guy she's still with him.
Yeah.
Which is admirable, but that wasn't me because it didn't work out with my lifestyle. But then all these jobs and all this trying and all like, oh, I quit university and then I changed and then I did this and then I did that. And I've lived in 6 different countries and I've had 2 businesses. One of them failed. And first was complete like misunderstandings like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Then it was fear of like, who's this person? Is she crazy? Then it was judgment of like, oh, poor you, you didn't even get to settle down. And I think when we left, it was kind of, I don't want to say regret, but a bit of, oh, there's something else.
Yeah.
I don't think she will ever do.
No.
Again, it's not for everyone. Haven't seen her ever again. It's not for everyone. But if it is for you, embrace it fully.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason I started the podcast was so other people would find out that these different lifestyles, alternative paths and things exist. So like you say, it's not for everyone, but it's never boring.
No, it's never boring.
You might go to China with like $10 in your pocket. It's never boring.
It's a bittersweet moment, but it's a very proud one. So,
exactly. So throughout all your travels, where feels most like home to you?
So for 10 years, it was wherever my van was parked. Like whenever I felt a bit scared at a Phil corner or I kind of just went and slept in the van, even though I had a house to go to. Right now, I don't care where I am. If Pia's there and she's good, we're kind of safe, then I don't really care. Yeah. I can't care because otherwise I wouldn't do what I do.
Excellent. When you're away, because you're still away from Spain, but when you're away from home, what do you miss most about your home country?
Ham.
That's a new one.
Olives.
We've had bread, we've had crisps.
Well, jamón. I mean, ibérico. Cheese, yes.
Love that.
Sometimes the smells and sometimes the noises, like the sounds kind of sound different because of the language, I guess, I suppose as well. It's kind of like you go home and it's like that sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't miss it until I go back and I hear it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, bread. Yeah, but I mean, there's bread everywhere nowadays. But they ham. I bring legs and my grandma's soup. I bring bones and legs of ham in my suitcase to make soup.
You never get like searched or anything like, what is this leg?
No. When
Why do you have a bone in your suitcase?
So in the soup goes pig's feet, cow, backbone with salt, and what else I put? Like a pig.
All the vegans are tuning out at this point.
Oh yeah. But I you make soup. I put a lot of vegetables in the soup as well.
Yeah, okay.
It's like chicken broth, like whatever. Well, for me, it's kind of like I don't even eat the thing. It's the soup, as Pia calls it, yellow soup. I love yellow soup. Yes, it's great. Whenever you're down, I just make soup and I feel at home again. So.
Oh, awesome. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I hate this question. I always ask it and I don't know.
I blame John Weaver for this question.
I know. I guess this is a big one for me lately. Don't punish yourself more than you have to.
Mm-hmm.
We all get things wrong. We all make mistakes. We'll have highs and lows, and it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you get up and keep going, I've been suffering a lot of anxiety lately. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the last 2 years, I've had a lot of anxiety attacks. So that's been another journey to kind of work through acceptance, compassion, guilt management.
What do you think it is that brought that on?
Oh, all the circumstances, for sure. I mean, the divorce, the becoming a mother, the trying to still be a successful or define successful in other people's terms, whilst being a mother and having a different lifestyle than what you're supposed to have, to merging into a new family that had a big loss, to ever world pandemic, war, shit happening. Like it's never one thing.
Yeah.
It's never one thing. And I guess the more aware you are, the more sensitive you become. And that means your reactions are stronger. Yeah, I guess that's been a big one for me. So yeah, I guess the not punishing yourself more than you have to keep going. Because at the end of the day, we all learn, and that kind of happens, right? And without that, there's no way you can move on. And not only individually, but as a community, whether it's in sports or wherever you are, we'll make mistakes and we can learn from it. And I'm saying this for all this cancel culture. It's so big at the moment. It's just so damaging for individuals and communities in general that it's not really worth it. It's not really worth it because it's kind of feeling and sitting comfortable in those mistakes. And that's not really fair on anyone.
Yeah. On the topic of advice, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and what's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
I don't know if it's an advice or kind of what I've learned from my family, but it is the best and the worst at the same time, which is like work hard and just keep working and just keep going.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the best piece of advice because sometimes you have to absolutely just do that. But others is the worst piece of advice because we're not superhuman. And sometimes you need to stop. And that's a bit of my family's kind of work ethic and life ethic. And that's very much ingrained in me. And when I can't keep up to that standard, I feel like I'm failing. So that becomes bad. But when you need to get out of those situations, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's good and bad at the same time. How's that?
Double whammy. I like it. We talk a lot about mentors on the show, and you mentioned in the beginning that you had some mentors. Who are the mentors that have helped you along the way in your journey? Yeah,
mentors are great figures that we often tend to forget or even identify. I've been lucky enough to naturally searching for them and recognizing them as such. First, you kind of become super friends, but that's not what they are either. They can be, but often, in my experience, more often than not, when when you get too attached to them in that way, things don't turn out great. I think most of the mentors in my life have been women.
Cool.
Strong, independent in their very different ways. But most of all, they were very open to vulnerability. And they had their own issues that they would talk about openly. And they had no hesitation in helping out and leading the way when they had to. And they would have no hesitations and let me push and get going when I was able to. And I think they all come and go in periods of life, and you have to accept that, for them to do their job and for you to keep your own journey, they go in and out, and that's okay.
Do you have any quotes or sayings that you live by?
When I was little, it's a bit of a cheesy one, but I always like the saying of it, maybe because it had the stars involved. The one of, oh God, I know it in Spanish. If you cry because you've lost the sun, the tears will let you see the stars. I just translated that, but I think it's right. It's from Tagore. So yeah, I always liked it. And the years pass, you kind of see a new meaning to that.
Yeah. Do you have any books, movies, podcasts, publications, anything like that you can recommend to our listeners which helped you on your path? Or can you tell us about something that has inspired you recently?
One thing that inspired me recently, or a tool that I've kind of reached out to, is this community of mothers called Mother Wild, which I invite every mom that feels like it's a bit outside of the box to look up to. They're on Instagram, but they run like sessions every month, a few, and then talk to different people. It was founded, one of the founders is Carmela, who was coincidentally the founder of Women in Boat Sports. She now lives in Japan, and it's a global community, and it's been there. And so when I needed it, I tapped into that resource or their resources. And when I haven't, I just, it's there, and you kind of know it's there.
That's cool.
So that's been a very good tool. And it's a different kind of approach to these things of helping you in your journey or inspiring you than books or movies, because you're actually talking to people. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. Awesome. What's one myth about Seasonaire life that you would like to debunk?
That it's only for English party people.
Yeah.
I guess. There's a lot of them, but it doesn't have to be, or you don't have to be a chalet girl, or there's no one way to do it. You can make it your own.
I've got to ask my mum's favourite question now. What's one thing you take with you everywhere you travel, or do you have any travel hacks?
Oh, I have a lot of them.
Oh, yeah? Share.
Where should I begin? God damn it. Something I always travel with, though. Yes, I have a compass, a little compass.
Oh, cool.
That bizarrely lives in my toiletry bag that my dad gave me when I moved to Canada, so I'd never get lost.
Oh, so cool.
I think he actually meant it to use it in the field, but not that it would get me out of anywhere. But it's actually a very good little compass. Have I used it ever? I don't think so, but it's cool.
That is cool.
Travel hacks. Ooh, because now I have a lot of travel hacks with babies and kids. I have all sorts. One that I did, it doesn't always work, but if you're a bit overweight on your luggage on the board bag, like they weigh it on the belt, you kind of put your normal suitcase in, and they always make you take your board bag to another belt.
Yeah.
If they don't look, or if you're cheeky enough, I sometimes change my boots and put my snow boots in, so it's overweight. That's a cheek. And now sometimes they walk with you, so it doesn't always work. It works in some airports. You have to know whether they send you there or they walk with you.
Okay.
So that's next level hacking.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think the best travel hack or advice is being where you are. Like, traveling is exhausting, and if you do it a lot, it gets quite intense, and the only way to survive it is by taking your time to travel and stop trying to do other things. Especially now with Pia, when I travel with her, I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
It's traveling with Pia, and that's what's happening, and that's when things go smoothly and well. If you're trying to, attend work calls, it doesn't happen. Like, traveling has to be traveling, and that's when things go well.
Yeah. Really good advice. Is there anything that season life has brought to your current life?
Something that I had to be reminded of recently throughout the pandemic and my process of anxiety, coping, and all of that was the planning ahead is okay, but don't plan too far ahead, because then, especially during uncertain times, which COVID have been, yeah, it's good to have a rough idea, but don't focus yourself too much on planning too much far ahead.
Yeah.
Rather than one step at a time sometimes. And I think season life has both, because you haven't finished one season that you have to already be planning the next one, because otherwise either you miss out on the jobs or on the rentals or on the housing or on the passes or planes or whatever it is that you need to do that next season. Or like, oh, I'm running out of, my rent contract is up this month. Well, where do I go next, right? So there is a certain amount of planning in season lifestyle for sure, but don't obsess with it, I guess. And it's kind of, you're here and you only have, you have to be somewhere else next month. So at least enjoy this one that you're here.
Yeah. If you hadn't gone and done your first season, what do you think you would be doing right now?
I'd be very, very, very bored. No, I don't know. I don't think that's an option. I think I would have left the village anyways, no matter what. So, I was set to be an astrophysicist, but I realized soon enough that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. So we've spoken quite a lot about the Women in Action Sports Network. Where did that idea come from and how's it going? What have you got planned for the future with it?
So the Women in Action Sports Network is an evolution of the Women in Boat Sports that I relaunched last November, so just a few months ago. It's really kind of giving the community that space we all deserve and need, and to promote each other, create connections, inspire each other. And so what it actually looks like is we run monthly workshops and sessions and open conversations to both learn from each other, inspire. We have Justine, who's my co-director, that facilitates a lot of the workshops, and she's a coactive business coach. So you actually learn skills from that and improve others, but also network and get to know the other community. And then I run a lot of the interviews, so kind of to get inspired from these leaders and inspirational women in the industry. But it ultimately is a place, or I want it to become a place where you can ask a question and someone will be listening to kind of answer in this specific, action sports industry and professional work. So
excellent. So what is next for you?
So next for me is keep pushing this Women in Action Sports Network, keep working out, putting the pieces together. We started a few conversations about the progression of female snowboarding, female mountain biking, which are really taking off, and the industry is really responding with interest and curiosity, which I think it's great. I'm also in the process of, I run the marketing and the comms for Bike Park and next to Barcelona. That's one of the, it's called a Puma Bike Park, and it's one of the biggest ones. And we're in the process of potentially getting a long-term contract there to run the facility, or maybe not. So I'm debating whether my role should be there, because also I'm in Sweden, so it's a tricky one. And I'm also involved in O Marisquinho, which is an action sports festival that finally, after the pandemic, kind of looks like it's going to be back to normal. And it's in the north of Spain in August, in Vigo. And it's a great, great event. And I'm really excited because that's kind of been a bit of my platform to jump over the next thing in my media experience. Last year, I was able to do work in a very special scenario, because of course it was COVID and we had restrictions with public and stuff. But what that meant for me is that all of a sudden I was managing a team of 70 people, with 2 live feeds, 10 hours of streaming, and just a huge media team. And I did learn a lot. And so it was hard, but I'm looking forward now to see how this can evolve in normal circumstances, or more normal circumstances, and how can I evolve in that position, as well as how can I advocate for women being still part of these events and this kind of organizations. So basically, I guess, long story short, I'm what's next for me is to trying to put all the pieces together.
Yeah. Where is the best place for people to find you?
I guess I'm pretty active on Instagram nowadays. Alba Pardo T. Alba Pardo was taken. So, otherwise, albapardo.com, my professional website. Also, womeninactionsportsnetwork.com, or in the Facebook group if you're interested in the topic and are part of the community. Men or women, doesn't matter. I think I don't forget anything. Yeah, just going to our website, womeninactionsportsnetwork.com, and join for the membership.
Awesome. Do you have one parting piece of advice for anyone thinking about becoming a Seasonaire or starting a new adventure?
Just do it. Oh, wait, that's Nike's. I need to make my new one, my own one. Yeah, they're so good, though, at what they do. Just do it.
Excellent. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to cover before we say goodbye?
I think I'm sick of hearing my own voice. No, this was a pleasure. And you definitely, like, I do a lot of interviews, and I feel like sometimes I keep repeating myself. And this was a different, refreshing one that made me scratch my head in more than one occasion. So it was like a really
I'm just really
exciting.
nosy.
Yeah, no, but that was a really exciting experience, and it didn't go at all as I thought it would go.
Oh, really?
I didn't even tell the stories or the things I thought I would tell, which I guess are the ones that I normally tell. So I think that's kudos to you, and thanking you for having me here and reaching out.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. It's been really interesting to hear your story, and it's a little bit different as well, because obviously a lot of freelancing in your Seasonaire journey. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. Check me out playing it cool whilst interviewing someone who's that experienced that they literally interview for Red Bull. To say I was nervous was an understatement. I was shitting myself, but we got through it, and I want to say a huge thank you, and what an absolute honour it was to interview the marvellous and talented Alba Pardo. Don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast player to get all new episodes as they're released. And remember to check the show notes for any links relating to today's show. Shout out to our sponsors Gap 360. As always, a huge thank you to Mike at Mike's Sports Bar for the studio space. Thank you to Mondo Way for the music, and thanks to you guys for tuning in. See you all again next time.
They're calling me on the door. Can I go get it? It's a package.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry.